My friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I have it painted already and I thought I'd just show you the finished painting before we start painting it. What do you think? A nice little experimental painting just to have a bit of fun with. Let's try it. Let's try it. But it was a lot of fun to paint. Stay tuned if you would like to see it. Let's go. Come on. I'll show you how I done this painting. It's very, very nice. I'm very happy with it. It's simple, kind of abstractly type painting. Palette knife work. 35 minutes. 35 minutes we paint this. Come on. Let's have a bit of fun. Alright, let's go. This is my canvas, 16 by 12. My colours, titanium white, burnt sienna, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow pale, burnt umber, lamp black, phthalo blue and a little magenta. There we go, and there's a reference photograph. Wonderful. Nice and simple and a bit of fun, really. That's what this tutorial is all about. Just a little bit of fun. Nothing else, my friends. Let's have a go and see, can we create something nice? A nice big moon up in the sky. I'm going to wet my canvas with some linseed oil, okay? I think it needs a nice oily base, the canvas. It's quite dry at the moment. I did prime it once, but I think it's still maybe a little on the dry side, so I'm going to just run some linseed oil just right over my entire canvas, I think. Why not? I have a little bit of tissue here, look, with just a bit of linseed oil. Dampen the canvas with that. If you have some liquid clear, that's absolutely fine as well. Or you can even just use your thinners. Bit of turpentine on its own, just to help with the soakage of the canvas. That's really the only purpose of all this, is to stop the canvas from just soaking in the paint a little too quickly. That's really all it is. So let's dampen our brush now very slightly, only slightly. I suppose the first thing to do really is let's draw a little moon. So look, let's just put a general shape of the trees are there. The moon, there'll probably be up higher actually, and the moon is around here, isn't it? It's very big on the canvas, isn't it? I'm not going to go huge on the canvas, just going to kind of a nice size. Let's just start filling in our sky. Come on, let's get some phthalo blue, and my brush is starting to fall apart. I think it is. I might have to switch brushes. This brush seems to be coming apart at the seams. Now, this is only a cheap brush. You can see a really, really cheap brush, okay? It's just, you see all the hairs are coming out. So I think this brush has had its day. I think it's time for this brush to go in the bin. Yes, I'm going to switch brushes. I should have another brush here somewhere. It's an older brush, but it should do the job just fine. Let me take a look. This is a very old brush now, but I had this was a good quality brush. I had this about 2 years, and you can tell the difference, okay? This brush, nothing came loose, anything like that. It's absolutely fine. Let's get some phthalo blue, some white, bit of black. Now, it's very, very dark background, isn't it? Let me just, I might use this with a little Naples yellow just for around the moon, okay? You know that kind of halo that we have around the moon? I might use it for that. And maybe on the inside even, a bit more Naples yellow, a bit more white. And then we can start going darker and darker outside of that. Let's mix up some darker paint. Phthalo blue, a tiny bit of magenta, and black. The sky is a very blacky blue. There's not so much blue in the sky. Down around the bottom maybe. Up around here, it's a very blacky blue, isn't it? So look, I just going around here very gently. I do want to keep the shape of that kind of halo around the moon nice, okay? If you're not great with circles, you could just put something on there and go around whatever it is. But look, let's just have a bit of fun and try this. That's what this is all about. This is all about just getting some paint on the canvas and having a bit of fun. Now, just nice and dark all the way around there. Notice I'm going around in a curve. That's just to kind of show off the halo going out and out and out, okay? Now, when it gets to the edge, we can just kind of soften it in. We can get rid of those swirl marks going around in a circle if we want. It's completely up to yourself, but I'm being careful just around this moon. Already we have a nice little halo effect down around the outside, don't we? Let's go right down and fill all this in with some nice dark paint. Phaylo blue, bit of black, a little bit of magenta just to warm it up slightly as well. You could even go a bit more blue down here if you want, and then add your black. And that'll give you a lovely deep shade of colour. Now let me just get some more Phaylo blue on my palette. A good bit this time. Let's go back into Phaylo blue, a little bit of magenta, little tiny bit of black. And you know what? The oil makes all the difference, especially when you're painting a lot of background, okay? The oil on the canvas, it really makes a difference. It just helps the paint move around that little bit easier. It just makes it less work, really. That's all it is. Now, let's go around here, fill all this in. I want thicker paint now just there because it's quite thin. If your paint is quite thin and kind of watery, we'd say, it won't kind of dry properly, okay? It'll dry very patchy. So I'm just putting plenty of thick paint over any kind of damp areas that are really wet with lots of thinners. So I'm just putting a thicker coat of paint around that area. Around like that, and then we'll just soften it in. And of course we will be using our blender brush as well. So not to worry about brush strokes and all of that. But look, this is just a bit of fun. You can do whatever you like with this. Completely up to yourself. Okay, now let's just stop and take a look. I like that now. That's nice, isn't it? That's quite nice. Nice deep colours. Let's go up around here. Just darken that slightly. See, I'm just kind of going on an angle just to get the corner. You see what I mean? Same here perhaps. Then I am going to go nice and dark down the bottom. So Phaylo blue and black, just those two colours, lots of it. Let's get nice and dark down around the bottom here. Okay, there we go, that's a bit better. I like that. Nice and rich and deep. So it sort of disappears into the abyss. Isn't that right? And even pure black, maybe a bit of brown, down around the corners here. Just have a bit of fun with all this, okay? Don't take this too seriously. All this is just a little bit of fun. Let's get our soft blender brush. I'm going to start around this section here, okay? I want to soften all of this in, make it nice and soft. I don't want to see too many kind of separations. You see the way it kind of separates? I don't want that. I want it nice and soft and gradual as it goes out. Get wider and wider and wider and wider. Just get that nice and soft. Okay. Now that's not bad. I might just soften some of the edges again. You don't have to do all of this. You don't have to go to all this trouble if you don't want, okay? I'm just kind of messing around and having a bit of fun. And let's just call it practicing techniques, that type of thing. Okay, I want to stop at that. It's time to do the moon. I think we need to get the moon in, and then we have a tree. So I'm going to take a bit of tissue, all right? I'm going to dampen that with some thinners, and I'm just going to go and remove some of this with some thinners. That will just make it easier for us to paint the moon. That's the only reason for this, okay? Now let's get nice and big. Let's get a nice big moon in here. I'm not going as big as the photograph on purpose, okay? I don't want it that big. I don't want it huge. Switch to a small brush. Now painting the moon. Look, it can be tricky painting a moon as such. It can be. A lot of people tend to shy away from painting a moon with the little details and stuff. But let's just go for it. No thinners. Let's just grab some Naples yellow, white, and let's just go. It's a very bright whitey colour, isn't it? I'm going to start with this. And the issue is you don't want any green in this, so you must be careful not to overdo the yellow, okay? Let's paint a circle, come on. Because we're going out into a greeny blue shade, we don't want any too much yellow in this because it'll only go a muddy green, won't it? Now let's just have a look and see. I know on camera this may look like it's white, and to a certain extent it is. There's a bit more yellow in the white, okay? I'm then going to take into this white and Naples yellow, I'm going to go for a tiny touch of burnt umber. Okay, a tiny touch. Maybe the tiniest touch of black, just to give us the sort of browny grey shade. And then I'm going to just start picking out subtle shapes of the moon. Now I know there's a very solid kind of a line around that. There is a way we can fix that and make it a bit more subtle around the edges. I'm going to try something. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to take, I need a very kind of a soft brush now for this. A very kind of a soft brush. But something that's not pointy. And something, not something with a bit of an edge on it. Like something like this perhaps. What you could do is take this very gently and just dab. Okay, you could dab around the edge and that just softens the edge out. Creates just like a foggy kind of an edge to it. Very, very gently. Just follow that around. And it does the job, you see what I mean? It just softens the edge, gets rid of that sharp line. Very gently. And you can keep going with this as much as you want. You don't have to do this. You can just leave it as it is, if that's what you like. Now with the same brush, I'm going to take a little bit of black and burnt umber. And there's even a touch, I can see, a touch of magenta in there. It's a kind of a pinky brown shade. Let me have a look. Okay, maybe a touch of Sienna, just to warm it ever so slightly. You can see how I'm just kind of going along with these colours, kind of trying different shades. Now when you get to the edge, again you can soften it, just to create that soft edge. I'm not going to be too particular now with all of this. I'm just going to start dabbing colours on and seeing what happens. Let's go up around this side here, just little dark spots here and there on the moon. How about this, huh? I think this is a bit of fun for a change. Nice, light-hearted bit of painting. There. Now we can just keep dabbing over little bits if we're not happy. We could get slightly darker shades as well. So we could take a little bit of black, a little bit of magenta, and a little touch of burnt sienna. That could be a slightly warmer, kind of pinkier shade here and there. I think a bit more burnt umber. You see the way I'm just sort of messing around with my mixes. I'm just kind of adding little darks here and there and just having a bit of fun with it all. That's all I'm doing. Now I'm just drying my brush, okay? I'm just cleaning my brush and I'm just going to kind of dab over a lot of this and soften it in. Just to make it kind of blend in a little better all over the moon. See? Just very gently, just creating. That's nice. I like this dark here. It gives a nice impression of like a shadow or something on the moon. Let's go up around here. Just make a few darker spots, darker patches there and there. Then I'm going to put in a little bit of light around this. I'm going to take some Naples yellow and some white, maybe a touch of cadmium yellow as well. And just to add some bright highlights into all this. Just imagine it's catching some real bright light from the sun here and there. Okay, that's not bad, my friends. That's not bad. I might just take another soft blender brush and go around the edge of this very, very gently. Just to soften it outwards. Even the moon itself, look, we could dab. Now, it's difficult to know if it looks okay. Until it's all done, of course. It's difficult to know. I'm going to put a couple of hints of stars in the background with my fan brush. I'm going to take my fan brush and a little bit of white, but there's a hint of a blue in this now as well, so it's not completely white, okay? It's just very faded stars in the background. I'm going to go for a soft blue. Anything that's lighter than the background, just one or two here and there. Now you might not be able to see that. You can see a couple there, you see them? Just dotted around. The tiniest few. I'm going to go on now to my tree. Because remember, the moon is going to be covered by a lot of this. A lot. But I think I just need to first, again, I'm going back at the moon again now. I think I need to just bring out a couple of more darker spots here and there on purpose. Okay, let's paint our tree. I'm going to go right into the branches. All right, I'm going to get a small flat brush. I'm going to take lots of burnt umber and black, yes? Let's go. Burnt umber and black. You could even say pure black, really, couldn't you? But let's just add a little burnt umber anyway. Lots of thinners. Let's get it nice and thin and watery. Let's just start putting in some branches. I'm just going to start with the thicker ones first, okay? Let's just get all these thick ones up. Be very loose with all of this now, you see what I mean? Very loose. Then I'll go to another smaller brush. Let me find my very small detailed brush. Here we go. This is my rigger brush. Again, same thing. Let's just get a lot of black, a little hint of burnt umber. Lots of thinners, nice and watery. And let's just go right up into the moon. Look, lots of small little branches coming off of this. Very, very loosely. Let's just put a lot of foliage on this. But remember, you're not going to see too much on the edges. I'll be using a palette knife for a lot of the foliage. Alright, so all I'm doing here is just suggesting a few small kind of twigs and branches and stuff coming off of this. Just for later, that's all. Just for later on. And this is all just a little bit of fun. I love painting stuff like this. It's refreshing because, you know, a lot of the time we get bogged down with detailed paintings. Would you agree? And it's nice sometimes to just do something very loose and free like this. It really, really is. It just lightens you up a little bit. Okay. I'm going to start with a bit of foliage, and I think, let me think now what kind of a brush is best here. I'm looking through brushes to see what I can use. I think maybe just a fan brush. I think that might be the easiest solution, just to fill in a bit of dark here and there. I'm going to get some burnt umber and a little bit of black, okay? It's just to kind of fill in some dark spots down around here and there. You see that? I don't know if you can make that out now very much. But it's just to bulk up the tree, that's all it is. My palette knife then will kind of just put all the highlights, the nice highlights on it later on. But this is just really to bulk up the foliage first, okay? You get some burnt sienna. We can start putting some burnt sienna here and there, look. Just around the edges. You could try a bit of magenta with sienna. Again, a little bit of warmth. You can see kind of what I'm getting at here. Slowly building it up. The next thing I'm going to do is, right, we need a palette knife. We need to get some palette knife stuff on here, okay? I'm going to use a small palette knife. I'm getting a lot of paint right now. I'm going to get plenty of paint on my palette. I'm going to take plenty of cadmium yellow. I need some more burnt sienna. So I'll take, let me find some burnt sienna here now. Okay, I have a new tube of burnt sienna. Now you see this, I get a lot of questions about this. You see the oil coming off the paint. Literally when you open a new tube of paint, it's very oily. There's a lot of oil in the paint to begin with. I think that's just the way it's sort of packed into the tube. And you know, that's just the way the paint is. You get quite used to it. It'll stop after a while, but that's not anything I mixed with the paint. It's just the paint itself. That's just the way it came out of the tube. You see what I mean? It's sort of running down the tube, or it's running down the palette. But you get used to it. Let's grab our palette knife. Let's go right into some cadmium yellow, burnt sienna. There's already oil in this burnt sienna now, so this will help. Cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, a little bit of Naples yellow. I'm going to start this for the darker section of foliage, okay? I am simply going to just dab with the palette knife, look. Even on flat, I'm going to dab with the palette knife. Because a lot of it is going to be kind of blended in anyway, later on. Let's come down here, look, let's just do a couple of dabs like that. And leave it sort of disappear back into the darker area, as you see. Let's just keep going like this. Now this is just so much fun, it really is. If this is not your type of painting, I would at very least just suggest you try it for a change. Alright, this is not the type of thing I paint either. A lot of the time it wouldn't be my first choice of landscape, so to speak. But certainly trying it, it just, you know, it's a different feeling to landscape painting, and it's nice. It's just a nice feeling. It's a nice easy-going sort of light-hearted painting, just to get the juices flowing, so to speak, you know what I mean? That's all it is. It's, you know, a bit of practice. It just gets a bit darker as it comes down into the tree, okay? That's all. Let's just try that. It gets a bit darker with some burnt sienna, 1 or 2 hints of foliage here and there. That's coming on quite nice already, isn't it? Now it's time for the lighter shades. Let's get some cadmium yellow, Naples yellow. And there's a hint of burnt sienna in there already. So that'll be quite a nice mix, I think, for the top highlights. We're literally just dabbing some blobs of colour onto this. That's all we're doing, okay? Dab, 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 dab. Let's just keep cleaning our palette knife in between. And let's just go again. Let's go across into the moon. Right across there, come on. You need to just plenty of light. That's all, plenty of light. Right, let's go again. Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, little hint of burnt sienna. If you want to just take your time with this, you can. If you just like going along with a little pointy brush and doing those little flowers or whatever they are in, you know, one at a time, absolutely, you can absolutely do that. I prefer to keep it just on the looser side. That's just me. I just like it that way, you know. But you don't have to. You can just, you can go along and take your time with these little details if you so wish. It's completely up to you. Yeah. So we are going well, aren't we? We're going quite well with all of this. And this is really just to show you, look, there's no other reason, it's just to show you how you can just create a nice simple painting with loose brush strokes and loose effects. You know, you don't have to go to huge amounts of trouble to create just a nice little scene. Now, let me get some yellow, little burnt sienna. I just want to kind of add a little bit more, a little more strength. That's the word I'm looking for, strength. I want to add a bit more strength to the foliage. Just make it a bit more impactful. A little bit of cadmium red. Just into the deeper areas. Burnt sienna. And look, you know, there's a chance I might just overdo all of this, and that's fine. But I don't mind. I'm having a bit of fun with this. It's just such a nice little painting to, as I said, get the creative juices flowing. That's all it is. That's the whole point of it all, isn't it? Now, I might even take a bit of white and put a dab of white here and there. Again, just to catch some of the lights, that's all it is. Cut in front of that moon just a little bit more. Okay, now I think that's absolutely fine. I'll take some burnt umber and black, and I might just darken some parts in here with that. You can darken things back in again if you want, you see. You don't have to leave it as it is, okay? Just because you put some colour on doesn't mean it's finished. So you can just darken down a lot of this stuff if you wish. I'm going to go and darken in here again, just a touch, just a tad. No. And my friends, I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I don't see too much wrong with this. It's not perfect by any means, okay? I mean, I just kind of rushed. I didn't rush, but I just kind of went through this quickly. But you know, you can take your time with all of this. Pop a few branches and twigs coming out here and there, just one or two. They might even catch a bit of highlight. I know I probably overdid the foliage a little bit, but I don't mind, okay? Honestly, I don't mind that at all. This is only just, call it a bit of an experiment or whatever. It's just a bit of fun. That's all it is. It was just a bit of fun. There we go. I have a bit of a light shining on the, you see my lights overhead are shining on the canvas, so there's a bit of a sheen there. I get questions about that as well. That's just a bit of a sheen on the canvas, that's all. But look, what's wrong with that? That's all right, isn't it? That's all right. I don't think it's that bad at all. So with that, 33 minutes, my friends. Imagine that. Imagine that. 33 minutes. We painted this. It just shows you, be loose and free, just have a bit of fun. Don't worry too much. That now even in a frame, that would be quite nice, quite eye-catching. It may be a little bit much on the halo. You could probably soften that in a bit more before you do the tree. It doesn't have to be that kind of big and bright, but it's okay. I'm happy with that. my friends, thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back very, very soon with another tutorial. I appreciate your support, and let me know what you think about this. Let me know. I know it's not the most in-depth kind of painting, but it's still fun nonetheless. It's just a bit of light-hearted painting. That's all it is. It's just something to get you going and get you moving and get you thinking. That's all it is, all right? Let me know what you think. I'll see you very, very soon, my friends. Thank you, and God bless. Happy painting.